I'm Flyin Brian J. This is MMAmania.com. Before we start talking about the stylistic matchup between Glover the Rainbow Teixeira and Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson, which is the main event of UFC Fight Night 109 or hashtag UFC Stockholm, takes place this coming Sunday, I want to go over some misconceptions about the matchup. Number one is that Glover is going to school Gustafsson if this fight goes to the floor. I just don't think that's true. One, because Gustafsson has not been submitted since 2010, and that was the only time. And since he got put in that anaconda choke against Phil Davis, he went to Phil's camp and then got really good at wrestling and has 86% takedown defense. All fights start standing. I don't know if Glover can get the fight to the mat in order to prove that he's that much better than Gustafsson with his jiu-jitsu. Misconception number two is that Gustafsson is a lot younger than Glover. Yes, it's true in terms of how many times Gustafsson has ridden the earth around the sun and that he has less fights than Glover. But Gustafsson has been in two of the most exciting wars in UFC light heavyweight history against Jon Jones and then against Daniel Cormier, and then his brutal TKO loss to Anthony Rumble Johnson. So I just don't think that in terms of fight years, he's that much younger than Glover. On top of that, he's sat out since September due to having a back surgery, and he's dealt with quite a few injuries in the past few years. Misconception number three is that Gustafsson is going to have a superb length advantage in the matchup. Yes, he does throw the lengthier striking techniques. Yes, he is a super tall dude for any weight division in the UFC. But statistically, he doesn't have a significant advantage in that department because he only has a 3-inch reach advantage over Glover. Last misconception, I think, is that these guys just well-rounded out their game recently because they showed off some wrestling in their respective last fights. Gustafsson against Jan Blachowicz and Glover against Jared Cannonier. Those guys have had those abilities for a long time. Gustafsson, I mentioned, went to train with Phil Davis and has showed off some really good wrestling. He's the first person to take down Jon Jones. He took down Daniel Cormier, and I already mentioned his fantastic percentage of takedown defense. Glover, he's utilized that wrestling quite a few times in the past. He averages almost 3 takedowns per fight, and he's been in the UFC since 2012, and he showed off a lot of takedown ability against Ovince St. Preux. Now, stylistically, I do think that even though I said it's going to be a misconception that Gustafsson is way longer than Glover, I do think that he throws the lengthier striking techniques on the feet. He is more well-rounded in that department. He loves to throw a jab and then a power right kick to the body. He's got a lot of movement, lateral movement, and he's not opposed to doing the overeem thing where he'll just kind of run to reset in the center of the octagon. Glover, though, does have probably more power in his hands, and he has sharper boxing, but his arsenal is a little bit more limited. Mostly what he wants to do is throw a right straight, left hook combination. Yes, his left hook is probably his most dangerous weapon, and he lands it quite frequently. He sometimes throws an uppercut, and that's if his opponent is pressing forward. Most of the time, Glover's going to be walking his opponent down. I don't think that's going to behoove him great here because Gustafsson is going to be using a lot of lateral movement. But if Gus does go to close that distance, look out for one of Glover's uppercuts to come out of the chute. I don't think, though, that Glover is going to be able to knock out Gustafsson. A lot of people are talking about Glover has a huge punching power early, and yes, he does, but even when Gustafsson was TKO'd against Rumble Johnson, he wasn't out cold, and we're talking about this vicious striker in Anthony Rumble Johnson. Something to take into consideration here is that I already mentioned that Gustafsson has taken a lot of damage, and you'd think that in training he would go the Robbie Lawler route and not spar at all. But in a recent interview with champions.co, he said that he's brought in some guys that hit as hard as Glover, and they've been hitting him hard in training. I don't think that's a great idea, Gus, but whatever. I mentioned the takedown defense of Gustafsson twice now. This is the third time. It's phenomenal. I don't think that Glover's going to be able to get him to the ground. I don't think Glover's going to be able to show us that fantastic jiu-jitsu skills that I believe he has, but I don't think he'll get the chance to use them here. My official pick is going to be Gustafsson via decision. I think he utilizes some reach with that jab, with a front kick. Overall, the lengthier striking techniques with the lateral movement, I think he's better there. He has to look out and not circle towards Glover's left hand because he could get caught with that left hook. I think that Gustafsson's chin is going to hold up here. I don't think Glover's going to be able to get him down, and I think that Gustafsson might actually be able to get Glover down in open spacing because he does do a decent job of changing levels from his striking to his grappling or his takedowns. But sometimes Gus will throw ill-advised takedowns from way too far away. He can't get sloppy because he could get caught with an uppercut from Glover. I do think that Glover has slowed down. I don't think that Glover's diversity is enough to beat Gus here. And I think that at the end of each round, Gus is going to look for a takedown to solidify the victory in that round. I think he's going to at least get 3 out of 5 of the rounds. And I've definitely got the Mauler Gustafsson via decision. Last thing I want to say about the matchup, though, is I do not think that Gustafsson deserves to be minus 330 or somewhere close to minus 400. Yeah, I think he'll win. I think he will win a close decision. That, in my mind, is not worth a 4-to-1 favorite. And if his durability has dwindled at all, if he's been taking too big of shots in training with those guys that he brought in that have been hitting him as hard as he thinks that Glover's going to hit him, that could be detrimental to him. So I'm not confident in laying minus 400 on Gustafsson, but I definitely think he's going to win this fight. Tell me who you're picking in the comment section down below. Please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you on my next video. Namaste.